Hey friend, it's Brandon Gustafson. I help beginners like you launch their assisted living business in the next 12 months. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some of those red flags that you might encounter as you're trying to get your facility zoned and approved for assisted living. If you need some help with that, stick around for today's video. Hey friend, welcome back to Assisted Living Investing. Excited to have you here on the channel. Before we get started, I want to remind you to go get your free underwriting calculator at assistedlivinginvesting.net. It will be the big blue box in the top right corner. And if you go and grab that, it's a great resource to help you decide if this is actually going to be a profitable opportunity for you or not. So make sure you go grab that free resource. Now, let's get into the topic for today's video. Today, we're going to be talking about some of those red flags that you need to be aware of as you're trying to launch your assisted living business, specifically when it comes to zoning and making sure that you have everything that you need in place. So at its core, what I've found is there are really three different ways that can really hinder your ability to get licensed and get the zoning piece in place for your facility, which is a part of the licensing process that you're going to go through as you're trying to launch your assisted living business. One of those issues is fire safety violations. There's a lot of common problems that I see as you're trying to figure out the process for doing this. And I have videos that are specific to this, so we'll link one of those up above so you can go and watch those videos that talk specifically about fire. But what I see here is you're like missing an inadequate fire suppression system, which is maybe you have the wrong kind. I think it's like a 13R and a 13R. I can't remember exactly what they are. I'm pretty sure an F. I can't remember. Go watch that video. We'll link it up above, where it kind of describes to you exactly what you need to be doing with the proper type of fire suppression system in your facility for your needs to meet the standards of the state and the local municipality, but also to protect your home and your residents in the event that there is a fire. Having blocked or improper exit routes as well. That's something that can be a hindrance. Like if you have a door that looks like it could be something that is an exit, but it's painted in and you can't use it, it's really just for decoration, you're going to have to adjust that and make it so that it is accessible so that you can get outside of the home. Not having hardwired smoke or carbon monoxide detectors can also be something that you're going to need to look into. Not all states, not all municipalities will require that it be hardwired, but you're going to need to have adequate amount of those smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors inside of the home, and make sure that you have everything that you need from that standpoint, and make sure that they are serviced and up to date on a regular basis, which is something that if you're doing a fire suppression system can help you out with a lot of that. But it's something, if you don't need that fire suppression system, you only need fire extinguishers, then having proper notification of when there is a fire is very important for you and for your residents. And then not meeting egress requirements. So this is ways to exit a building or a room. And I actually was looking at a facility, looking at a home and doing a conversion a couple of years ago here local to me in Utah. And as we were looking through that, what we found is there were 2 rooms inside of the home that we were not going to be able to use for assisted living. We thought we would be able to, but when we had the fire department come out and inspect it, we found that we wouldn't be able to use it in the current state because there were not 2 forms of egress from a room, that is a window and a door. And not only do you need to have a window egress, but it needs to be something that somebody can actually get out of. And when you consider an elderly person, that means you're probably not going to be able to do something necessarily in a basement, with a window being one of the egress if they've got to climb out of a window well type of a thing. Or you have multiple story building, if it's just a ladder to climb down, probably not going to work. So my home in Colorado, where we have a 4-story building, has the ability to do this because our top floor, we have a fire escape, a whole staircase that goes around the back side of the building so that those that are upstairs can get out in the event of a fire. Those on the bottom floor have their own exit from the home. Those on the main floor have their own exit from the home. And those that are on the second floor, which is kind of in the middle, can go upstairs. They could go out one way and they can go out another. So there's plenty of ways for them to get outside of the building, and those meet the requirements. So That's something you want to be aware of as you get into this. Just something that I've learned through doing this a few times, that sometimes you think you've got something perfect and you're like, it doesn't work. And other times you have a 4-story building that actually works really well for it. And so you just need to understand what those rules are for the local municipality and make sure you're adhering to that and then maintaining those areas so that in the event of a fire, it's not going to become an issue. You're going to have to run fire drills and a bunch of other things, which is a part of phase 4 of what I teach, which is kind of the licensing process. As you get into that, it's something that I can definitely help you out with there. Now, when you run into some of these issues with the fire, there are a few ways that you can kind of mitigate this and work around it and fix some of these issues. One is to check those local fire codes, have somebody from the local fire department come out, do an inspection on the home, make sure they're telling you what can and can't happen, what needs to happen, what you don't need to worry about. Getting those things done is really important. Installing exit signs throughout the house to show, with arrows showing where people need to go, possibly doing emergency lighting, track lighting on the floor and the ceilings that show people where to go in the event that it's too smoky. Some states are actually starting to require, so that's something you might need to consider doing. Ensure that each bedroom, as I mentioned, has 2 ways to get out of it, a window and a door, multiple doors, something along those lines. There has to be exit routes for people to get outside in the event of a fire. And then having fire extinguishers placed strategically throughout the house based off of local fire code and making sure that you're doing that. Even if you have a fire suppression system, still going to have fire extinguishers. Making sure those are serviced and charged on a regular basis is something else that's really important. So there's a lot with fire. And it's one of those things that it's probably the biggest startup expense that you're going to have if you need to put in a fire suppression system. So you want to really understand what that looks like and have the right conversations with the right people to make some progress there. In my accelerator course, I kind of coach you exactly through how to do that. You can check that out at assistedlivinginvesting.net/ALA for Assisted Living Accelerator. And in that, I give you my 5-phase process, phase 4 of which is to navigate all the rules and regulations and make sure you're good from that standpoint and having those conversations. So phase 2 is all about the house. You combine those 2 phases, you're going to be able to navigate all of this, who to talk to, how to talk to them, how to get the certificate of occupancy, and then how to use that to get your license. So I can help you out with that. Again, it's assistedlivinginvesting.net/ALA. Now let's talk about the next one, which is ADA compliance. So ADA compliance is something that you may or may not have to do in your home. You need to check with the local municipality, check with the state, see what the requirements are. You also want to look at which type of resident you're going to be serving and take into consideration that some of your residents may not be wheelchair bound when they get to the facility, but they may become wheelchair bound. And if you want to continue to care for them for the duration of their life, then you're going to need to make sure that you are ADA compliant. If you don't want to do that and you're okay saying, sorry, we can't care for you anymore because you are wheelchair bound and we can't handle that. We don't have the facilities to do that. We don't have a shower. We don't have toilets that work for it. And then you have to discharge them and have them go to another place. That's fine. But you want to make sure that you're understanding the rules and regulations for what that's going to look like and how it's going to impact you as a business owner. Something else that's common with ADA is the width of hallways and doorways. Typically, the standard there is 36 inches. And so you need to look at that and see what that might entail, because it could require an extensive renovation, and that could potentially reduce room sizes, which then makes it so you can't have enough residents in the room, or it could be too costly. Bathrooms, they will need to be wheelchair accessible. That could be grab bars, wheelchair accessible shower, could be sinks that are ADA compliant so you can wheel up a wheelchair underneath it. Those types of things are what you would need to consider as you get into this as well. Ramps and stair lifts, if you don't have those and you only have stairs, then that could be a potential issue as well. Some states, some municipalities are going to require that there be ramps or lifts. Some are okay with stairs. You need to understand how that's going to impact you as you're trying to get things going. And then uneven flooring with a raised threshold. So what I want you to think about here is you're coming in from the outside of the home into the inside, and you have this little gap, this little raised flooring so that it can keep dust out, as an example. Or maybe it's you have the main living space and then you have this little kind of track that's between the main living space and the door going into the room so it can keep dust out. That's a lot of what these are for. those transitions, if they are raised, can be a problem. So you either need to take them out, or you're going to need to make it so that they don't have a ledge on them. So you're going to have to, get some kind of rubber thing or something like that reduces the likelihood of being tripped. There's a lot more to ADA compliance, and would encourage you, if you need to make sure your facility is ADA compliant, that you're looking into a lot of that stuff and seeing exactly how that works. How you're going to fix some of these issues here when it comes to ADA compliance is you're going to be looking at the hallways and doorways, making sure that those are wide enough and that you're able to handle that for your residents. You want to install grab bars inside of the bathrooms, potentially railings throughout the house, even alongside hallways, so that there's something for residents to grab onto. Adding ramps at entrances and smoothing out those flooring transitions can really help you mitigate those ADA compliance issues. So that's something that you should be looking into. Some of those things could potentially be expensive, potentially, putting in a ramp or something like that, and potentially if you need to widen doorways and hallways, that can be a pretty big hindrance for you. Now, the third one that I want you to be aware of is incomplete documentation for the home. So some common problems that I see here are like proof of property ownership or a lease agreement. So even if you own the facility and the business, and you do what I do and you have those as separate things, you are still going to need to have a lease agreement. I have a tool for you for that, actually. If you go to assistedlivinginvesting.net/lease-agreement. We'll link that down below so you can grab it. But it's the lease agreement that I have between my operating entity and my real estate entity, so they can lease that back and forth. Something I worked on with my attorney, but having a tool like that is really going to help you out. Making sure you have the approved zoning permits and business permits to be operating inside of your home is another one that you cannot skip over. You're going to need to have that. Not every city, not every municipality is going to require that business permit or even a zoning permit, but you have to check and make sure that you check the status for your local municipality to see where that lands, because that could be something that can really hinder your ability to launch your assisted living business and continue operating it successfully, so you avoid fines and can continue operating the business. Fire safety inspection reports is another one. So you're going to need to have the fire department come out and look at the house. You want to do this pretty early on in the process, because they're going to give you what is essentially a punch list of the things that you need to fix on the house to make it compliant for assisted living. But ultimately, you're going to have to get an inspection approval from the fire department that says, yes, this house is good and you can use it for assisted living. ADA compliance and documentation. So if you do need to be ADA compliant inside of your house and your municipality, then you're going to want to have the documentation that you are ADA compliant. So you're going to want to have that, and electrical and plumbing inspection reports. So if you're doing that, especially if you're selling a house, you're going to want to have those types of things. Any maintenance work that you do on the house, if you own it and you're doing a conversion, you're going to want to have that, and then you're going to have final inspections for plumbing and electrical to make sure that the systems can handle the volume of people that are going to be in the home. When you shift over from being a single family home over to assisted living, you've got a lot more stuff happening in the house. You have a lot more people using toilets, for example, and flushing, and a lot more water going through the pipes and waste going through the pipes and those types of things. And so you want to make sure that you can handle the volume of people there. So it's another piece that I want you to figure out. So some of the ways that you can really kind of navigate the incomplete and missing documentation as you're going through this is to work closely with the city planner, just to confirm that you have all of the required documents before scheduling any inspections. Because if you don't, they're going to come out, they'll say, well, do you have this document? You'll say no, and they'll leave, and you got to schedule it again. So you want to make sure that you're working with the city planner, you understand what that's going to look like when you have electrical and plumbing and fire department and anybody else that comes out for an inspection, so you have everything that you need to move things along and do it right the first time. Another one is to keep all of the permits, the licenses, the inspection reports, and organize all of that, keep it all organized and ready to hand to people. If you need paper copies, then do that. If electronic copies are okay, which is what I prefer to do, then keeping those in a Google Drive folder or something along those lines can really make it a lot easier when you're having these conversations with people, with inspectors, with the city, with the state, whoever it is that you're interacting with. You'll have those ready to go, and it can really accelerate some of the application processes as you go through all of this. There's a lot that you have to do, and this can really help you out along that path. Now, if you found this video to be helpful, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and ring the bell as well so you get notified every time we put out content like this. We do content on Tuesdays, we do a live, and Thursdays we do content like this. We'd love to have you join us, and if you subscribed, you'll get notified anytime we put out any other extra content. So make sure you don't miss anything. Well, this was very kind of technical, but really helpful in helping you navigate the things that you need to be aware of to make sure that you don't run into these hiccups and you don't get held up because you're missing documentation or you're not prepared for some of these bigger things that can really hold up your ability to turn your home into an assisted living facility. Or even if you're buying, you're going to have to do a lot of these same inspections. If you need help with things like this, my accelerator course, again, is a great tool for you. assistedlivinginvesting.net/ALA for Assisted Living Accelerator can really help you out through the process. So make sure you go and check that out. And if you want some guidance as you're trying to go through this and try to figure out how to do this, get your questions answered, get some weekly tips and things like that, join the ALI Basics community. You go to assistedlivinginvesting.net/basics, and it's an incredible community. We're growing, and I love seeing the interaction inside of that community and the progress that people are making as they are trying to launch their assisted living business. Does residential assisted living sound interesting to you, but you don't know how to get started? At assistedlivinginvesting.net, we're here to help beginners like you launch their assisted living business in the next 12 months. I love helping and coaching people and helping them along as they're trying to launch their assisted living business. I'd love to help you out as well. And remember, it doesn't take a lot, just a little bit. Just keep going step by step by step. And I promise you, if you do and you're consistent and persistent, you're going to be successful. Thanks for watching and have a great day.